Good afternoon, dear friends. Let us start our last plenary session in this wonderful conference, which is slowly coming to an end. I would like to introduce myself, Magdalena Gaete, Senior Research Fellow at Laboratory of Education Economics, High School of Economics. The topic of our plenary session is forming of new competencies in the interests of sustainable development. Let me start with Oksana Kosachenko, President of Sistema Charitable Foundation. Before, she has a long experience not only in this system but also in different universities. She teachers and so on. Next to her is Dmitry Cherneyko. He is the chairman of the St. Petersburg Committee for Labor and Employment. Next to Dmitry is Igor Narkevich. He is a rector of St. Petersburg Chemical and Pharmaceutical University. Sergey Michael. Sergey, I can see you in the hall. I will invite you for the dialogue. He came in the morning from Siberia. He is a vice rector of social and educational work. Michael Kupriyanov, the first vice rector at Optics University, Taras Pashenko Laboratory of Projecting Education at High School of Economics. I would like to outline the topic of our discussion, and then I'll give you the floor. Education is important for sustainable development, and today it plays a crucial role for increasing leadership skills and forming civil self-consciousness, and it will help create decisions and find new ways for more sustainable development. I'm not going to focus on conclusions. I would like to outline several questions we will discuss during our plenary session. First of all, what are the skills and competencies are necessary for new generation to support sustainable development of the society? And the second thing, is it possible to develop them on the basis of university education? We invited Oksana because FONA system traditionally has such projects and elevating to the future projects connected with mentorship and projects connected with the third mission. And I know and see that it is a special internal system. Can you share your opinion, your view? Is it necessary for students to have developed these new skills and competencies? Thank you very much. There are few people, but it is very pleasant to see now people offline. Now you will see my presentation. We discussed cooperation and system and the activity. The essence is simple. Everything is 40 companies in 20 businesses. They don't intersect from agriculture to medicine, from biotech to telecommunications. Everything you can only imagine. We had a conversation with the leaders, managers of High School of Economics. Online games are among our set. We are looking for new staff. We have got a lot B2C businesses. It means we want young people to use our services. And when we speak about this wonderful generation, millennials, I am sure that among this audience there are millennials. We all understand that these young people are more demanding for the questions of sustainable environmental and ecological protection, moreover climate and biosphere. We can't exist beyond biosphere. Of course, space station only out of biosphere. And our task is not to damage this biosphere. 10 years ago, the requirements were different for any person who is looking for a job. 5 years ago, requirements radically changed. We started to speak about globalization. And now, when we hire a new employee, alumnus from higher institution, we clearly understand what is G agenda, the agenda of sustainable development, and if he considers this agenda included into skills, as we traditionally call it. Our all surveys we conduct among young people and our current personnel, they're very different. If young people called ESG our future, my generation consider it hype. We have to wait for half a year and this will end. But it is not so. You see, there is a danger that our future generation, our children and grandchildren, won't have comfortable space to live. And one of our skills is the understanding of sustainable development agenda. And when we invite such a person to be employed, at first we invite him for training. It means that we prepare this specialist with the DNA, which bears his responsibility for the planet and for the society. I'm not focused on G letter. Managerial focus is inside cooperation. And you students, or your students, for them, today, it is a common thing. What sort of information do we have now? We receive 1/3 of alumni who are looking for a job, but they are not suitable for work. It's not my statistics. In our cooperation, There are 40%. We have specific business spheres, and we should adapt them. For example, MTC company, there are a lot of subdivisions, and no university can give such skills. But it does not mean that I blame universities. No. It is not so. We, for example, cooperate with the universities. High schools of School of Economics is among them. It would be strange if cooperation itself. We found some intermediary link. We call it charity. But here we speak about more pragmatic needs, and there is a connecting link. We connect employer and the university. We come to the university and explain the situation. I don't know the surname of Dmitry. We do it in cooperation with employment centers. You see, there is a huge gap. It is a very relevant concept. The best student, it is not a student who receives only excellent marks. And a person who wants to broaden his horizon, it is a valuable person. We need people. We need interested people, diverse people. We don't invite people who studied only for the sake of diploma, specialization. And with the departments on labor and social protection, we can closely contact. We speak that we say that we need a certain employer, and this university can educate such an employer, and then we use the platform of the future. There are several tracks, and this is the track can be chosen. And you know, in many high institutions, there are 2+2 modules, and we give such an understanding before the first years of studying, for example. It concerns the professions that exist.
So we have prospects in those professions and approximately collect a list of soft skills that are required. So we still are within those letters ESG. Anyway, it is sustainable sustainability in businesses and the opportunity and possibility to see the future. So we are talking about this 257. We think that all the future skills are related to sustainability. Only if we have, if we want our society to survive and to be able to transfer a friendly environment of education to their children and to generations ahead. So let's look through my slides. The third thesis that exists in our corporation is that we are educated for all life. Long life learning is something really great. Live and learn was told in ancient times, so let's not think that we have created this. The second thing is, for example, I have a dissertation of the Moscow State University, and there were a diploma that I was a brilliant student, and it does not guarantee me any employment. And every 3 years there is a change in the vector. So we need to collect new skills and knowledge to be able to work. Now I mean huge companies, neither diploma, whether it is red or bright red, scarlet, no dissertation. So they do not guarantee. I do not mean that you do not have to study at university. I do not mean that you do not have to research, to do scientific work. I just mean that you have to work all the time. And sustainable mindset, I'm still continuing talking about it when we talk about us employers. We think it is hype, but this is on the youth's behalf. Do you think it is half? Or do you just use bags, reusable and reusable glasses? Are you aware of what you're doing? Then it is not hype. This is what you need in your life in future. This is what we will take you and we will hire you and employ, not because we are the best in collecting and sorting out waste, but we are about knowing where we've bought reusable materials and what is being done with these things afterwards. This is not like when we buy a battery and put it somewhere in a specific container that just a car comes and takes us to the dump aside the city. So it means that the whole chain is relevant. You cannot just come into corporation and learn about this. It starts from university and even from secondary school. Now we see the trend that high school students and students of universities, they bring this knowledge home, and even parents started to sort out the garbage because their children came from university or from secondary school and said, I need to sort out the garbage. This is just a new application point. The vector has been pivoted. We want to know what our planet is and how it will look like. What can we do to not continue the global warming? And this is about the knowledge, whether you as a university give this knowledge or whether you provide additional knowledge based on the foundation. So we expect from universities that you will form those competencies. You can even call them hype, but now there is a trend for that. There is a demand for it, and we cannot go beyond these sustainable goals, and we are happy that we have Anatoly Chubais in the board of directors, who is the representative of Russia in UN. We are about how to make our business sustainable, how to not harm nature, how to be valuable and useful to society. So that's why we have a lot of projects that are being implemented through this United Center that is a charity fund and a platform, the elevator of the future. So all kinds of things, mentorship, volunteers, and all kinds of marathons. We are a connecting point, so please come to us. We work 24/7. We are all the time connected. Of course, we can create a specific program for each university, and I have several examples to share. It has been a long road towards this goal. For several years, we've been interacting with the High School of Economics. We have never had such an elevator, such a lift that put us higher. So this is the first time when students started to participate in this project, when we opened the educational platform. Today we have 124 and 1,800 students, and you can see how high that we have high conversion. Our aim is not just a person to come, push the button, watch a funny video about profession, but our aim is to make him watch different videos, to learn, to teach him soft skills, how to pass the interview, how to apply for a job, how to be a part of a corporate culture, and how to live the job in an appropriate way. So we just give the universities this information. We have 89 universities around the country who collaborate with us because this is an additional professional education and orientation, if you wish. It can be anything, just building your own skills. And also the market, the vacancy fair. We have 400 vacancies, and we input more and more. We have the best employees. All huge companies have their own private profile, so you can find a vacancy, push the button, and become an employee. These are basic vacancies for those who have just graduated from courses. So for universities, we arranged a specific mentorship program, and you will be surprised how general directors of huge companies like MTS and others, they applied for a program, mentorship, and there were so many people we had to interview, to make interviews with them, and we have chosen only half of them. It means that a lot of people want to be mentors, and it shows that our work is needed and our work is high level because people are eager to collaborate with us. So top managers have 3, 4, 5 students from profile universities, and students are also mentors, and they have their mentees like high school students who are trying to understand where to go, what kind of university to choose. So if I come back to 1980s, this kind of chain worked well at that time. School, university, and employer. So we did not invent anything. We just returned back to best practices. So the pandemic just influenced a lot, and we do a lot online. And today we consider ourselves as an educational hub. We educate not only external audience, but we also have some internal courses, and many competencies that we have are all in the sphere of sustainable development. Here I have told you what we do with students and what we do in general. Later, further, I will show how we work. So I move a lot around Russia. So today I have a flight, and today we have big celebrations due to anniversary of Sakharov. We are not lazy people. We just get a flight, come to Yakutia, work there, go to Vladivostok. So today, this week, we've been to Arkhangelsk, Galich, Voronezh, Novosibirsk, St. Petersburg, and today we go to Moscow. So we come meet with students. We have great program of interaction. I cannot say it differently because young, beautiful people come who have great contacts with us. We have really interesting discussions. I will tell you about the internship. We want our employer interact with the future potential employees. So all companies introduce internships. 38 companies that provide internships. For example, some companies do not participate, but the majority participate. For example, the vaccine that is being provided to your team was done by one of our companies, and we did something that employing centers really like. We pay for internships, and after those internships, we plan to leave some students for us just to write a diploma work, to make projects, and for them to stay with us, to work with us. These are just pictures of what we do. Interactive career days, the last one we had in Konstravskoye University, State University, just this week. And the construction plant is being building, and we realized that we'll need over 500 students. So we came there, met students, visited colleges for forestry works, and there is a representative of each company in every region. MTS is with us because MTS is everywhere, so we have a hotel network, hotel chain, telecommunication and medicine that are with us, that visit all the places with us. And soon we will have Kurgan. For example, with Kurgan University, together with the administration, we have held such a meeting, hackathon of social design. We suggested students for them to do something like what they can do in the city to make the life better already tomorrow. So we suggested them to do, not just to plan for 2025. I wish we had great trees in our city, but what can we do tomorrow? And we've found the winners and we provided grants. It was in December, and in June we are going to come and see the changes in the city, how students changed the environment in the city. About mentorship, I have already mentioned. We interact directly. We take an employer, bring it to students, so they have direct contact. They can ask and answer questions. So if you're interested, please call us. We are 24/7 online. Thank you very much, Oksana. So if you have any questions, please ask Oksana. If you don't have, so I can continue. Maybe people will think and then ask questions. Today on our panel we have 2 universities from St. Petersburg. Together with them, we've communicated before this event. And we wanted to listen to your opinion about how you do, what are the cases in your universities, how do you develop those new competencies. Maybe Igor, you can start. Thank you very much.
In fact, the main fundamental thing for the development of the skills, competencies is an opportunity to understand surrounding people, those who are interested in what you are doing, and simply in people who are the external environment for higher institution. And chemical and pharmaceutical university, this is a specific institution where we educate engineers and pharmaceutical specialists. Over the last 10 years, we have had sustainable relationships with leading employers in Russia and in St. Petersburg. Our students have internships in all chemists of the city, chemistries of the city, and students of the Faculty of Industrial Technology and Medicine. They have internship in 46 plants, 3 or 4 people in one enterprise. More employers pay accommodation and transport and meals for them. We have strong relationships with international pharmaceutical companies such as Pfizer, Eli Lilly, Novartis, MSD, and others. Also, we cooperate with Russian companies, our city companies, Polisan, Vertex, Salafarum, from Pharmacynthesis, 50 decent pharmaceutical enterprises in the city. As for Russians, Airfarm, Farmstead, Macrogene, and others. One of our main directions, it has been improved. The opportunity to prepare specialists tailored to employers. As a rule, employers come to second-year students, but it's not pleasant when they come at the end of the academic year and want to communicate with our students. Such work helps form future employees' loyalty to the companies. Bachelor students have third and fourth year of study in order to choose their future employer. The students of pharmaceutical faculty have the right to work after the third year of studies, up to 40% work, and on the fifth year of study they understand the future employment. But you know that there is lack of staff in this sphere. Engineers no voice in the microphone. A community, urban community. We try to participate in all city and Russian projects connected with professional orientation. In Central Federal Okrug, there was a project Projektorium. Our governor Beglov, we started the platform on pharmaceuticals. Our city projects, the last projects on specialized classes. It includes Polytechnical University, our university, the University of Mechanics and Optics. It allows us to form, elevate school, high institution, university. And as a result of such a movement, there is an opportunity to evaluate the skills of students and help them understand what they want and which niche they want to occupy. You know, the leader should know everything, be creative, know several languages, but such students are only 20%, but the rest 80% have to find their niche in life. They're not so active, but they have to find their niche. Such an approach allows to give the student opportunity to try himself from different angles. They work with potential employers, participation in volunteer movements. We have the club, war patriotic reconstruction, social movements, ecological projects. In fact, it gives results. Students start to understand university. We can clearly see this on the example of our campuses, dormitories. You know that students should perceive campuses not only as an accommodation. They must think about their career, future work. That's why they understand whether they need master's program, postgraduate program, whether it will be here or in other university. It is a construct. It influences the faculty because regularly we have conflicts, especially when students come from foreign internship and they start explaining a teacher the truth on the basis of international standards. And teachers in their turn are nervous. On the other hand, it influences the faculty and makes them improve themselves. And it affects formation of educational content. One of the recent examples, it is previous year, we had a huge project with the company, Air Pharma company, for their production near Moscow. They produce Sputnik vaccine. We organized about 200 people. They had to work at that plant in order to produce vaccine, and alumni from chemical, biological specialization, they needed skills connected with production immune biotechnical medication. And the aim was achieved, and the company Air Farm was satisfied. We had interesting cases. Groups, up to 40 people arrived, and distant and offline intensive course was offered on the basis of our training center at the university. Thus, we can't clearly understand the sustainable development and aims. There are a lot of them. On the whole, we understand not management of changes. So we understand the management in conditions of sustainable changes. It brings their fruits. We are concerned with the question. Today, our alumni are in high demand, but what will happen in several years? People who study now and who will come further, they shouldn't be distressed, and they must be sure that they will be in demand. The main aim of our university is the fact that our students are in demand, and it influences the reputation of the university. Thank you. Igor, thank you very much. Mikhail, what are your ideas? Magdalena, thank you, dear participants of today's meeting. I would like to give my ideas on the topic. Here, what should we highlight? We should highlight that today we speak about technological race, and it is developing. Technological standards are changing. Innovations allow us to shift, and who is quicker, he can occupy specific niches. It is the first thing. It is important to take into account. Otherwise, you will lag behind. It does not matter whether the competence is old or new one. it is necessary for it to work on development. Then the system of labor division. If we speak about sustainable development, it is not limited by the frames of one country. We have to participate in this system, not only in production chains, but also in research and innovative decisions. We start to divide the project research field, some zones, each of which has leaders, and they are responsible for this or that direction. In atomic industry, it is very well developed. For example, thus these two frames give the impulse to a certain movement. And what do competencies mean? Everyone discusses this word or uses this word. The understanding of these words. I have my own point of view. It is a separate topic and discussion. But in the conditions of innovative development, the requirements to the working place are constantly changing. Imagine a person was hired, and during his working life, the requirements are changing, and the main competence is the ability to study. Today, the situation is not clear. We have some limitations in education. We have knowledge, skills, and abilities. These are universal, general professional competencies. But employer has another point of view. He needs functional skills. There is a gap. It can be overcome by professional standards, targets, preparation, internship, and so on. What do we do at our university? We must build educational process properly, and we must understand how to meet the needs of the market, how to adapt young graduates, and the career of such people means success. And one of the main tracks for us is the cooperation with the schools and forming their we create engineering classes in order to develop interest, desire through phenomena, subjects, constructing of something simple, and so on. There are a lot of such classes, whole schools. There is a school under our management. There is a museum, virtual solutions, up to 12 laboratories, 3777. It is a famous school. We work actively with this school. Then these alumnus decided to choose this direction. We tell him that you have a choice.
We cannot just limit such alumni because parents and grandparents stand behind. So this kind of education a student understands that maybe not everything can be done in mathematics or biology, and they have additional opportunity to take additional resources and to have some additional preparation. So during the educational process, they understand what trajectory to choose, and employer can also influence this, and because a person can be employed and then can be formed the understanding about competences that have been gained. So during the process of education, interdisciplinary is being formed, and I see interdisciplinary is a very important factor. It's not, I don't see that it's really frequent in life that a person has graduated from university and learned something and stays with it through all life. Everything is changing and innovations appear on edges of different directions, and here we pay attention to it. This is not only interdisciplinary, but also the direction of research and education. Let me give you an example. When I took huge projects, in a number of cases, I found those people in Russian Federation. I also had to go to some park in Turku to hire them and to make them participate in the project, because otherwise the project will not be as high quality as we announced. So now there is a center of world level how they use artificial intelligence in science and in medicine. We create this team attracting scientists and scholars from all over the world. We cannot do differently because the competencies that exist somewhere, we need to invite those people and to enrich our team and to move forward. Otherwise, like growing these people, we lose time and we lose speed. So here, we think that interdisciplinary direction in the research and preparation is a very important factor. I talk about research. As we enter the education through research, we've created a pilot zone with laboratories, and students go through those laboratories. They look what it is there, they contact with scientists, and they have this wish to research, to get something new. When the virus affected a person and a person gets first results, is proud of it, he is ours. We have a leader of a new era. So this topic is really important. You want to stop me? Yes, I see. I understood your signs. I'm finishing because we have more speakers and colleagues that would like to talk about it. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Thank you very much. R&D is one of the competencies in the sphere where these competences are developed. I would like to give the floor to Taras Pashenko. He works in the High School of Economics, and he has a research that can help us in his research. We can see how the universal competencies are being developed in the university. Dear friends, good afternoon. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be here on this wonderful panel. I work in the Institute of Education in the High School of Economics in Moscow, and we do research in the educational field. And one of the focuses of our attention are universal competences. If we talk about new competences that are needed for sustainable development and for life in the future, I'd like to support Oksana. Thank you very much for this discussion about soft skills and the knowledge and competencies and ideas that help people live in various conditions, not depending on professional environment, not depending on the situation they are in. And we research on how universal competences are used in universities. I'm sorry for this informal title of the presentation, but I think it reflects the idea well. And talking about universal competencies, I cannot say that the situation is great in universities. First, I'll explain what we understand by this. We analyzed more than 180 frameworks of universal competencies, soft skills and skills of the 21st century. Key competencies, they have different names, you name it. But in general, all these educational results can be divided into three groups. Mindset competency, we can involve critical thinking, creative thinking, systematic thinking, sustainable thinking. We've heard that it can be a part of a mindset. In general, what I mean by this are our knowledge, skills, and understandings that help us solve the tasks. First, I mean not formalized tasks. They do not have the algorithm how to solve them. The competencies of communication with others involves the skills, communication skills, teamwork, also emotional intelligence. And another competence is the interaction with yourself, the self-organization skills, time management skills, self-regulation skills, emotion regulation skills. Just key research groups in the world, these three blocks of educational results are universal competencies that are needed without correlation with what a person does. And top employers pay attention to them, according to international statistics research. When we ask them, what do you see the most important in your employees in the next 5 years, these three blocks are always in these top lists. Of course, there are different combinations, but the idea is the same. In my presentation, I'd like to focus on critical thinking as one of those universal competencies. We cannot do research about everything, so our research is focused on specific things, and we try to look at how those things are being developed and are growing and what we can tell about them. In the research literature tells a lot from the beginning of the 90s that high level of critical thinking is not a natural result of higher education. What does this mean? That only higher education is not enough for a person to have critical thinking skills. We tried to check this. And we arranged and also participated in major international research who measured critical thinking level in students. They measured the dynamics in students' thinking when they pass from one course to another course. One of them of this research is Super Project. You can copy QR code and go to the page of a website with the findings of this research. So if you wish, we can send you the presentation and you can find the information from it. So this was a major international research, and let's look at the results. Here you see a diagram. I will not dive deep into this diagram, we can do it later, but the main idea is the following. The students in China, India and Russia, and they have huge number of respondents, the level of critical thinking does not grow. It even decreases by the fourth course of bachelor degree. In the USA, the situation is a bit better, but not significantly. They have some growth, but very slight. It's really strange. It seems to be strange. We always think that the more educated a person is, the better it solves difficult problems, but it does not work like that. The result says the opposite. Here is another research from Vivicom. It was devoted to studying the economic literacy of students of different universities. It was also international research. They did not study only economic competencies, but also universal competencies. You can see quite huge numbers of respondents. The university from Russian Federation, there was 5,000 students took part in this research, and also a lot of students from different countries. Here is the result of Russian students. I did not put all the results on the slide. You can see that the average score on the intelligence test grows in terms of statistic value. So there is no growth actually. Another research that was made using different methodology, but the result was the same. In general, I can say that there is the reason to just think how to solve this. So people have high education, they study at university, but they have analytical skills. Providing arguments do not grow. The level of the skills does not grow. To answer the question why it is so, we've conducted a qualified research. We interacted with different universities, and in a way of interview, we tried to understand what they do to boost critical thinking. And you can find the results in the article that is mentioned on the slide, which was published in the journal Pedagogica. And it showed that the university in Russia, the main problem, the administrative side does not provoke changes in the university and doesn't provoke anything that is connected with critical thinking. There is no subjects related to critical thinking in the curriculum. There are no tools to estimate. Teachers don't know how to develop the mindset of students. They think they know, but in reality they don't. At the same time, in universities, we can see traditional style of education, lectures and so on, but the research shows that passive ways of learning do not develop critical thinking skills. I would like to remind you that in the state standard of the education, we have systematic critical thinking skills by regulatory documents. It should be provided by universities. We have good news as well. Now, it's not that bad. I'd like to say that now we have a project by the scientific center over the international level. It is called the Center of Interdisciplinary Research, and they have sub-project, the mechanisms and factors of forming universal competencies. And I hope that in the framework of this project we will find the answer what can be done to develop those skills. Besides, we have a number of initiatives by universities who develop universal competences and soft skills and do it on purpose. They don't think that these skills will be developed themselves. This is High School of Economics, ITMO, Ural Federal University, Tomsk Federal University, Tyumen Federal University, Far East University. Probably there are some more, but these were the universities that we collaborated with, and we are sure they do this work. Of course, we cannot talk about the development of education if we do not have the tools to assess. We can talk a lot about the things that we teach, this or that, but once these results are not supported by objective data, that can be only in our fantasy. So it is great that we are elaborating the tools how to assess this. And in the April conference, we had an April conference in Moscow. We presented the report about the assessment of universal competencies as a result of higher education. And it was a really interesting text you can download and see what kind of approaches we use and what kind of approaches exist. We do not lose the hope, and we really expect that soon we have much better results. However, right now we are at this point. Thank you very much for your attention. Taras, now you will be in high demand by rectors of different universities. Escape if you can. Of course, the question is quite simple. We have our system of education. This is maybe not the best, but this is as it is. It is like a conveyor. This is a Soviet education when we had to produce a lot of typical specialists, and we needed to provide them with the scope of knowledge. So a person needs to have some skills. A person needs to put on clothes if they come in into a clean space and premise. A person needs to be able to do some procedures, and our conveyor system that was taken from Franco-German model, it exists right now as well, and it is supported by our government. On conferences we discuss a lot about the development, the critical thinking, and we have state regulatory authority and that provides us standards, and we send just one huge pile that should be registered, and they check 0.1 competences or 2 competences. So the system itself does not develop a unique person. Like a conveyor, it develops ordinary average people. Of course, when we want to provide additional skills, this is a second stage of education, as Olga mentioned, that our education started to have stages. And maybe this is a good step ahead when we start to develop this. Because in general, critical thinking is present somehow, but you understand that now we are in a contemporary situation. We saw it as an advantage if a person learned a book by heart. But now we understand that information, there is a lot of information, but you have to look for approaches to education. I don't know how it is about high school of economics, just the teachers are the same, and we experience in different universities a deficit of teachers, talented, with critical thinking. We don't know where to find them. So we want to, for example, to quit a person, but we don't know where to find a good one instead. So there are systematic problems that are obstacles to development. I hope soon we will move to new European or American models of schools. We communicate with Kazakhstan and Kazakhstan colleagues, Kazakh colleagues, and we see how they transferred to the British model, and it boosted the development of educational programs. They have academic mobility is at a very high level. It is one of the most effective. They can send people just take into account their credits, but we cannot send our people to Belarus using the program of academic mobility because our subjects and competences do not correlate. So in the story of Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, when we have tight relationship with them, we have positive contacts because they said it's no problem. Uzbekistan said no problem, we will take your school curriculum and we will have mobility. With the rest countries we have problems. And Kazakhstan, it has Anglo-Saxon model and the biggest academic mobility, the highest level of academic mobility we have with Kazakhstan. Of course, in Russia, if we want to send a student to a Russian university is much harder than to send it to Finland. So we have a systematic problem, and we struggle to form a person of the future with some deep level of development of such competences as critical thinking skills. Thank you very much.
Any questions? You mentioned the first thing. I always hear that we are in a transitional period, but it is a sort of internal transitional period. And you know that being defines consciousness. And if our regulating bodies understand that there is a catastrophe in education, and in this situation, the law about enlightenment would not be lobbied. And there are a lot of educational platforms, but nevertheless, we won't be able to help you. We will kill everything that has been created. Which changes should be done? Maybe the call should be sent somewhere to the authorities. 2 days ago, I spoke with the head of our active wood processing plants. You know that textbooks are old-fashioned, and curriculum is old-fashioned. We create special programs, tailored programs, tailored to the employer. We equip lecture halls, and well, we stuck in this transition, and higher institutions are to blame. Of course, I agree with you about old-fashioned textbooks. Here the question is about the model of education itself. We need to give professional education, skills, and knowledge to a student at the level of the instinct. You see that in this circus you can teach monkeys in such a way. I liked Taras's idea that a first-year student is interested in something, and later there is a gap. You are wrong that educate someone at this or that level. You know, there are manual works. A person should be dressed properly. Otherwise, he won't be successful. Apart from critical thinking, people have to have skills to be able to work. A person can be intelligent but useful. We don't argue about critical thinking. Now there is a race for talented, creative, intelligent people. And what should we do with the rest 80%? Sorry to interrupt you. We are for equal access to our platform. We don't need geniuses. We are talking about common people. And it is a very, very interesting discussion. And we are here to listen to different opinions. You see, when we develop any competence, education is discrete in time. There is a certain period, bachelor course, master course, 2 years. You have to be limited, and you have to choose the set of forming competencies, approaches in order to form anything. And anyway, a person has special physical opportunities. We have to educate him within these 4 years, give him a certain basis. Maybe soft skills or some specific knowledge or skills of critical thinking. There is a period, and you have to create a certain product according to certain characteristics. Some representatives from professional communities, businesses, society can take part in this development. Certain parameters are set, and any high institution select a trajectory according to these characteristics. I would like to hear Dmitry. Dmitry, please say something. Dmitry works in the government, and at the same time, he researches. I would like to hear your opinion. You are also an expert in this sphere of employment, and you can give us some more advice. Yesterday, I participated in a dialogue. There are representatives of career centers from different universities, and also representatives, HR communities of different employers. I was impressed that they spoke different languages. It seemed like they live in different worlds. And today I listened to you attentively. Everyone came here from the system of education. Basic thesis, we don't hope that higher institution will give us a ready-made specialist. We understand that we will have to work. Business creates a structure inside it, and it invests in order to improve a person for the employee. I am very well aware how pharmaceutical university works. Pharmaceutical industry, unlike other industries, makes technological foresight, comes to school, and they understand where to move. It is clear that high institution can't produce ready-made specialists. But if a person, when he receives diploma, does not receive a working place, it is a mistake. Everyone lost time. Person is disappointed. Business did not receive what it had expected, and what is the way out. The main thing is to be in the state of constructive dialogue. We don't have an ideal system of professional education, high professional education, but it is changing for the better. How can we construct this dialogue? Dear colleagues, it is a global problem. It's not a problem of the Russian Federation. Don't blame yourself. It is a global problem. Moreover, if we speak about different aspects of critical thinking, I'll give you a funny example: assessment center, in order to send a person to the position of the director of the nuclear power plant. Intelligent psychologists from Accenture firm were invited after the first meeting. They understood that no one had a critical thinking, but they did not understood people. For example, the main engineer of the nuclear power plant, he can't think creatively. Chernobyl at each power plant will happen. Everything should be given equally. Of course, critical thinking is necessary, but not to high extent. For example, I can say that all the rules are written with blood. Must have and critique must be in every profession. Professional standards are very poor, and educational standards are old. They should be developing and developed professional standards, and we should have educational standards which quickly adapt to changes. If you don't have a market and the connection between the market of educational services and labor market, it will be a catastrophe. Today there is poor connection. Parties speak different languages. Why is it happening? On behalf of employer, HR speaks. What is HR today? It is a person who knows recruitment, staff sphere assessment, and the developing of careers. It is a promoted procrast. What do we need? We should find competencies with the perspective of technology of production. Where do we receive new knowledge? They are taken from the most developed business. Composites, new medicines, new formulas, R&D. And university must be within production, inside production. I mean university in the broadened sense as an institution and production as well. It is very difficult to achieve. The whole model of the university should be changed. And then, difficult thing for realization, middle and small micro business is poorly developed in St. Petersburg. Moscow started before, but this system of high school is oriented at anything apart from small and medium-sized business. There is no feedback at all. These people pay taxes and they have the rights. How should it be taken into account? And how can they be heard? And how can their expectation be met? Corporate university can create foundation. Huge corporation can afford it. And otherwise, what small and medium business can afford, they don't have time for it. The state must help them and support them. because they create gross domestic product. It is impossible to take into account without state platform. In St. Petersburg, half of working places are created by small and medium business. In the main part of subjects of the Russian Federation, there are 20-25%. During the times of Matvienko, a lot was done. Dialogue is necessary, dialogue platform are necessary, and we must hear each other. We conducted 5 labor forums, and this year we were better than Moscow. 6,000 people came offline, and Rospotrebnadzor allowed us it. We tried to discuss all these problems with HR, other communities, with education, but it is a very difficult dialogue. It should be started. Farm, for example, but it has moved forward, and we have got a lot of cases, and there is an opportunity to receive qualitative results with critical thinking or out of critical thinking.
And in general, to develop in spite of the losses. Thank you very much. I will answer briefly. Our charity fund is not the only educational structure in terms of corporation. Almost everyone has its own educational institutions. And we have a lot of connections with educational organizations. And in pharmaceutical industry, we have less problems than in medicine. But because we have just discussed with Magdalene, our medicine is very far from what we want it to be. Go to Belarus. You see, unfortunately, Belarus nurse will not be able to work in Russian clinic. She should get licenses and certificates. So we have interaction. We prepare people for us. I will answer about Belarus. We have own academy and own standards of business inside. So the nurse in MISI is not a nurse in a standard meaning. It's more like a doctor. We have European standards. That's why our nurses are people with high education often. So yes, we tried to hire from Belarus, Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan, but still we need to look at Europe. I mean, Europe in corporation, there is a lot of education in Europe. If you suggest some things, it will be great, but this is not only that we taught a student and put it in some workplace. Our education is horizontal learning, reskilling, upskilling. In our education, we put a lot, we invest a lot, and in the head of investments is just, it's just the main idea. It doesn't matter whether it is a doctor of science or a director or just a provider that just received education. That's why we on educational forum, because the investments into a person, this is the delta of the whole corporation. It's not only about the fund. The fund consolidates everything and gives online platform for different activities. It was easier to make one platform to place everyone, but we work with universities. It is hard. This work goes hard, but not with everyone. There are some industries that the work is quite easier. I'd like to support the idea of Dmitry. It was pleasant to hear that, because I think everyone is interested in it, is the idea of entrepreneurship and to create the structure that would localize small business. And it is not only related to pharmaceutical industry, but also to other engineering specializations, we see that there is a huge number of our students and alumni who do not feel comfortable at university, do not see themselves at university, but they also don't see themselves in large business. At the same time, they are ready to develop critical thinking skills and also entrepreneurial competences. And one of the problems is that their technological entrepreneurship requires substantial investments, as they need specific equipment that costs quite a lot for a young person. It can be like up to 10 million rubles. And to create such an ecosystem between university and production, especially in St. Petersburg, it's one of the foundations that will let us significantly boost the development. We try to develop it in university, but we don't understand how to do it, how to take this great number of talented people to direct into this vector. Now they have two roads, two ways: either education, to continue education and work in the academic environment, or to work in business, in pharmaceutical companies, networks, and so on. This third option would help us all. Thank you very much, Dmitry. Thank you. We also have Sergei Sorokin. He came today in the morning. And Sergei, we don't have a lot of time. Oksana needs to go to the airport in a while. I know that you have a huge project or several projects related to the network of competencies. Could you please briefly tell us about one or two ideas regarding this matter? I would appreciate it a lot. I think everyone will enjoy to listen about the Federal University. Thank you very much. I saw the vector of the discussion, what kind of approaches we need to use to form competencies of sustainable development. So I would like to illustrate it by the example of our university. The mission of our university is to protect geopolitical interests of Russia in the Arctic zone and sustainable development of the Russian Federation. So we have not an easy task to form competencies that will let prepare specialists who will work in the Arctic in the future. And besides competencies, universal competencies, as Taras mentioned, there are specific competencies such as like what kind of competencies needs a person that will work on the polar station for a half year or a year, whether alone or in a company of two colleagues. It's not easy to teach these competencies. We realize that not all our alumni work in the Arctic necessarily, but we still try to involve into our all educational curriculum and programs to involve a component that is related to the Arctic topic, to the diving into this Arctic theme. Another way is the connection with production. We have a branch in Severodvinsk. We work with plants who, like with companies, enterprises who repair submarines and ships. And we have a system that we inherited from the Soviet Union, the plant of tooth. And after the second course, a student becomes an employee in this enterprise, and the student studies and works simultaneously, and enterprise helps them reach create the condition that students are able to work in the enterprise immediately after graduating from the university. There are also innovative forms of work. Since 2015, we implement a project of the floating university. This is an expedition on a vessel when a group of young scholars and researchers and scientists, they are in a closed environment, go to the Arctic. They do not do only scientific research, take probes and so on, but also form the competencies that they need for this specific work in the Arctic and interaction. This is an international conference, or the international expedition. A lot of scientists and researchers from other countries participate, so they develop the skills of international and interdisciplinary communication. So we invite all interested parties into this. So this year we are planning to start in a normal scale. So the conclusion is that remembering about the thesis that you need to think globally, but to act locally, we have to engage students into the sustainable development in our regions, micro-regions, so that they can feel the support. Sustainable development means rational economy, ecology, and social development. We can feel all this while working in your region when you live. This is a great discussion. Thank you very much. We don't have time. The time is up. I'm thankful to you. I see it as a beginning of a very interesting and important for all universities and companies topic. So thank you all. Thank you everyone. It was a very productive session. Thank you.